Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about Eddie Lampert and Seritage Growth Properties. So it came to my attention recently that Eddie Lampert has been selling shares of Seritage. A few of you have reached out and told me. I noticed in Data Roma, if you click on this real-time tab, you can see owners of companies that have more than a 5 or 10% equity position in those companies have to report very quickly any activity with that equity. You can see here the transaction date and then when it was filed that this transaction took place. So if you look here, you see Eddie Lampert, okay? Edward S. Lampert, sell. You see he's been selling both Land's End and Seritage Growth Properties. Now, I don't really care about Land's End because I don't own Land's End. I do care about Seritage because I do own that one. And the cool thing here, we can see how many shares were sold, what date they were sold on, and kind of what average price that they were sold. So the big thing I'm looking at here, how many shares, what percentage of Eddie Lampert's stake in Seritage has he been selling recently? So really we're looking at these three transactions and these three transactions. So we're actually going to go into the SEC filing. It's going to be a little bit easier to get our heads around exactly what's happening. So here we are. We're in the Schedule 13D. So if we scroll all the way down, we can see these transactions. Okay, date of transaction, open market sales, Class A shares disposed, and then the price per share. So really what I did was I added all of these up. How many shares has Eddie sold since March 12th? And then I wanted to see how many does he still own, okay? So he sold about 509,000 shares this month. Now, he still owns 1.72 million, okay? So if we're just looking at that, Class A shares, he sold about 23% of his position in March. So that's a significant sale. Could be cause for concern. However, there's a nuance with Seritage Growth Properties where you don't just have Class A shares. There's a couple different classes of shares. There's also operating partnership units, okay? And a lot of people miss these. So back when the company was originally spun off from Sears, this is the organizational structure that was put in place. So let me see if I can blow this up a little bit for you guys. So you see here, there's an operating partnership, okay? And 55.1% of these operating partnership units are owned by Seritage, okay? But 44.9% of the operating partnership units were owned by Eddie Lampert, okay? Eddie Lampert's business entity here. So I don't know if this has changed. I haven't seen this organizational chart since 2015, since the original spinoff of Seritage Growth Properties. But if we assume that Eddie Lampert still has that same stake, 44.9% of the operating partnership units, that changes the math a little bit. So let's click in here. We're going to look at the most recent annual report. Okay, this thing just came out. It is fresh. I think just a couple weeks ago in March of 2021. So if we look at weighted average common shares and units outstanding, I'm going to move this back up. We can see there's, at the end of 2020, 38,298,000 Class A shares. That's in thousands. So 38 million, okay? That's the Class A shares outstanding. or I should say shares outstanding. Then you've got the operating partnership units, okay? 17,576,000. So what we're going to do, we're going to assume, or I'm going to assume, Eddie still owns about 45% of these operating partnership units outstanding. So if we assume that, that translates to about, what is it, 7,892,000 shares, okay? Because the operating partnership units are, you can convert those into Class A shares on a one-to-one basis. So effectively what this means is Class A share equivalents owned by Eddie Lampert before this recent sale were about 10,121,000. Okay, so selling off 509,000 from that initial 10,121,000, that's only a 5% sell-off. Okay, so it's a big difference, a 23% sell-off if you're just looking at the Class A shares owned by Eddie Lampert versus including these operating partnership units for just a 5% sell-off. And I want to reiterate here what Monish Pabrai says about when an investor is selling, okay, or an insider, for example. In this case, Eddie Lampert is both. If an insider is selling, there's hundreds of reasons that an insider might sell stock, okay? There's really only one reason an insider buys. That's what Monish Pabrai says. So Eddie Lampert is selling. Should that give us cause for concern? Well, maybe, but we don't know why he's selling, okay? There could be 100 different things he needs cash for right now, for whatever reason. It's obviously not great to see, but a 5% sell-off does not give me any pause. It doesn't make me nervous. If it was a 23% sell-off, that would make me a little bit more nervous. I'd be much more curious about what was going on with Eddie Lampert. And of course, if this selling continues, there could be a red flag there. It's something I'm going to want to dive deeper into. But a 5% sell-off based on, my estimate of, Eddie Lampert's stake in the OP units for Seritage Growth Properties, it doesn't concern me. So I just wanted to give you guys an update about that. I know a number of you have been reaching out asking what I think of these recent sales by Eddie Lampert. But also, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with this organizational structure in terms of, what percentage ESL still owns of these OP units. So if any of you have more recent data about who owns the OP units for Seritage, let me know. I've also asked in corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. Hopefully I get some answers there. I'll definitely give you guys an update if anything changes. But as it stands now, it looks like it's just a 5% sell-off from Eddie Lampert. So again, just wanted to give you guys that update. I know it's a little tricky with the whole OP units. I guess these are somewhat common with REITs as a way to get some tax advantages. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I do know that they're a part of the equity for Seritage Growth Properties. They really need to be factored into the equity. So that's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. Still got my bull hat on for Seritage Growth Properties, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.